I don't think we've had enough conversations about how much hustle culture is like actually killing all of us. Because I'm burnt the fuck out. And I don't know how much longer I can do this, and it's not funny. Like, I'm gonna cry if I don't laugh right now. I have a whole full-time job. Like, I have 2 degrees. I have a full-time job. I'm a supervisor in a lab, and I have to pick up a second job to be able to pay for daycare so that my daughter can go to the first job so that I can afford food and rent and gas and all this shit. All the while, I'm also a full-time student to get my third college degree because I don't like my full-time job anymore and I'm not fulfilled. And like, I live in this very weird world of like, I deserve to have this life that I like and I should get to travel and get to take my daughter to do things and stuff. And also, like, I'm literally breaking my body and my mind and my spirit by having to work all of this and do all this stuff. And for what? Right now, I'm just in one of those times that I go through about once every 3 to 6 months where I'm just like, what's really going on here? We can never win against capitalism. I have to work 60 hours a week and make $80,000 a year to make ends meet. That's insane. I can't even begin to wrap my head around it. And then I start spiraling. For those of you that are new here, hi, I'm Kat. I'm an addict. I've been in recovery for about 7 years from IV, meth, and heroin. And pulling myself out of all that and having a job and like doing the stuff that's supposed to help you and like a productive member of society is a lot of how I'm proud of myself in recovery. So when I get in these moods, it's just like, what the fuck is all of this for? Why did I go through hell to just go through hell again? Sober. And I like being sober. I like being clean. This is not what this is about, but it's the principle of like, all of this shit is for what?
But Americans' obsession with hustle culture is just utterly ridiculous.
It's not an obsession, it's a necessity. Our country doesn't care about us like how yours does. Not all of us want to have 3 jobs to pay rent. Not all of us want to be on food stamps because we can't afford anything other than housing. You know how many of us would love to have like one job at a cafe on the coast of like Sweden and then not have to worry about anything? Hint, it's probably everyone who isn't already well off. And what is it now? 50% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck because they're one financial decision away from being homeless, like out on the street. That's ridiculous. It's not a desire. It's not an obsession with hustle culture. We need it to survive.
You should never be at home. That's what I tell young people. Home is for 7 hours of sleep, and that's it. The amount of time you spend at home is inversely correlated to your success professionally and romantically. You need to be out of the house.
So, for 8 hours in the day, I am sleeping. For 9 hours a day, I'm at work. I got these 2 hours right here, which is getting ready for work. Then I have this time over here that is open for fun and hijinks. I need to figure out how to have a fulfilling life in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours each day.
Hi, I'm a burned out individual contributor at my company. I've made the mistake of taking my job way too seriously when I joined my company and demonstrated all my skills to my employer. I really hit the ground running when I started. As a result, my boss decided to reward me by delegating all their work to me and rebranding it as Reach Projects. They claim these projects will get me to the quote-unquote next level. I now basically have 2 jobs and haven't seen much of a pay raise or a promotion in years. Even though I've grown incredibly cynical, I have no choice but to excel every day to keep my job. And since I'm so busy, I barely have time to look for a new job. I guess I got a serious case of what they call Stockholm Syndrome. I digress.
Corporate America's concept of an 8-hour workday is some outdated bullshit. And let me explain why. We have 2 employees, employee A and employee B. Both have an 8-hour window to complete the same exact 3 tasks, and both of them are paid $300 per day. Employee A is very efficient, and they are able to finish all 3 tasks in a 3-hour period of time, while employee B takes 7 hours to complete the exact same 3 tasks. I should also note that we're to assume the quality of the work and the execution is also the same. So employee A now has 5 hours left in their day, while employee B only has 1 hour. Manager C comes around and sees that employee A was able to finish all 3 tasks in a 3-hour period. And what does Manager C do? That's right. They task employee A with more work. Employee A is rewarded for their efficiency, not with more money, not with more time off. No, they're rewarded for their efficiency with more work. And as if that's not bullshit enough, let's remember that both employees are paid $300 a day. So it's costing the company the exact same amount, even though employee A is able to produce double the results of employee B. And this is why the concept of requiring people to be available 8 hours per day is not a way for us to be measuring productivity. Instead, if employee A is able to finish 3 tasks in a 3-hour period of time, then their work should be done for the day, costing the company the exact same amount of money for both employees. So they shouldn't be punished just because they're able to work faster. It's complete bullshit.
So I can't stand this hustle culture mentality. I'm looking for a new job right now. I had a couple offers, so I made a poll on Instagram and it was like, would you rather work 3 12-hour shifts, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., with 4 days off, or would you rather work a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 and have the weekends off? Obviously, the 3 12-hour shifts is winning. So tell me why this guy I know that's kind of rich slid up and was like, wow, there's a lot of lazy fucks here. And I was like, I don't understand why. You would have 4 days off to live your life. You can travel, you can have a hobby, you can just have, you have 4 days off. We don't all dream of capitalism. And his response? No offense, but this is why you'll always be poor. This is what separates the rich from the poor. What do you want, a fucking cookie? You need to go to therapy.
I just want to say hustle culture is going to be the downfall of this generation because there is no reason why I should have to work 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 different jobs to provide one roof over my head, but then I don't even get to enjoy the roof or the fruits of my labor because I have to work all these jobs just to keep up with it. Something's got to give.
Slaves worked all the hours they were awake for their entire lives.
Hit me with it, I guess.
In American history, in Egyptian history, in the rest of the world that had slaves, which is most of the world at some given point.
This guy is a hustle culture bro, and I have no idea where he's going with this, but it can't be anywhere good.
I think, if they can do it, so can I.
I feel like it is important to mention here that enslaved people in the antebellum South in the USA, at birth, only lived on average until 21 or 22 years old. I mention this because what you're saying is ignorant, offensive, and profoundly stupid.
Now you're like, well, did they have a happy existence?
If he says anything other than no, I'm throwing my phone at the wall.
Well, they didn't get to pick the work they did.
We are seeing a global trend of workers feeling burnt out and disconnected from work. But what's causing this and how can we fix it? Bloomberg shows a steady upward trend of people feeling burnt out starting in January last year. The reasons for the increased feelings of burnout are not a mystery. We're still coping with the shock of the pandemic, but now constant talks of layoffs and recessions mean that workers are doing extra work without much more pay just to avoid getting laid off. How do we fix this burnout problem? One idea has been the 4-day work week. This seems to have the best effect on burnout rates. But what do you think?
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to your lazy girl job. Yes. Hey, sorry I'm late. I forgot my... Sarah, take that back right now. Gosh, sorry. Oh, God, not sorry. I never want to hear you apologize again, okay? Thank you. Sorry. Okay, so first things first, we'd like to congratulate Deborah. She's a recovering workaholic, and she's on day 300 of quiet quitting. Woo, Deborah! You're an icon. Thanks, everyone. Perfect. So just a few important reminders. 1, this company does not care about you or pay you enough, so just do your job and go home, okay? Right, yeah, and it is also Friday, so everyone is required to leave early. Right, yeah. So it's about that time for most of your tasks to be Monday's problem. Yeah. Oh, yeah, quick question. So ever since we've been doing the lazy girl job thing, I actually have been way more productive because I'm not burnt out and I finished all my tasks for the week. So, oh my gosh, Queen, why are you here? Go home. Enjoy your weekend, Sarah. Thank you, Veronica. Anyways, it's time for our hot girl walk. Come on, ladies.
This is a shift that we are seeing from people who are no longer as interested in moving up the corporate ladder as quickly as possible, but instead are more comfortable staying at the level that they're in. This isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it does pose some potentially interesting challenges for the future of corporate work. If you don't have Gen Zers or young millennials interested in climbing the corporate ladder and becoming more successful, then it begs the question, what is the future of corporate going to look like? And while I wish I could say that this probably means everybody will just work their wage and have less scope, what it really means is that people who are willing to lean in will likely end up taking a majority of the scope work, and the people who are willing to stay their level will either burn out and get pushed out of corporate, or likely hold a very small cog in a very big system.
She's talking about how there's a lot of people these days, particularly young people, Gen Z, younger millennials, don't really care about like doing extra and moving up. I see this a lot in the comments in my videos. She poses the question, what does this mean for the future of corporate work if you don't have people who want to move up and take on bigger roles? But here's the thing. This might rub people the wrong way, but I'm just speaking from experience. A lot of people who currently feel this way have yet to start a family, and when they do, their mentality is going to change. When you have people that depend on you, it shifts you into another gear. It's not just about having more mouths to feed. Your vision changes. We don't really care about having the best for ourselves. When it comes to ourselves, we can make do with very little. When it comes to our kids, we want the best. Best opportunities, the best schools, the best coaches, teachers, the best home possible to raise them in. That's why me personally, I'm not really worried about in the future having enough people willing to step into bigger leadership roles. Because when the younger generation gets older and starts having families of their own, they're going to start to care about that.
If you're a young person questioning hustle culture, let's talk about it. Because I thought that when I graduated college and got a job, people would stop asking me, so what do you want to do for a career? Except I became an innkeeper at a bed and breakfast, and I guess that's not good enough because the other day, a man who knows perfectly well what I do for a living asked me, so what do you want to do for a career? It made me think about the expectations we put on young people to constantly achieve more, get more degrees, look for an even better job, even if that gets them into a bunch of debt or makes them miserable. There's just a lot of people who value achievements and benchmarks over well-being, where they think that those things equal well-being. But I disagree. It should be enough that I'm doing something I enjoy for a living, and it should be enough that I'm debt-free and financially stable at 24. And it should be enough that I love to learn, but I'm tired of doing it inside the four walls of a college classroom. Of course I have ambitions and goals, but I refuse to let those desires be driven by the fact that somebody thinks I'm not good enough and I need to achieve more. So what do you think? Are you sick of hustle culture?
Work is toxic. Okay, don't do hard work then. Good luck, dummy.
So in this clip, the comedian Jimmy Carr is hitting back at the so-called anti-work movement, which gained some traction during 2021, as well as broader rejections of hustle culture and toxic productivity. And the crux of his argument is that hard work is actually pretty essential to become skilled and talented at whatever the thing is that you would like to become skilled and talented at. And yeah, I would agree. But there's clearly something he's missing here. See, Jimmy Carr is fortunate enough that his work, the thing that he earns money through, and the thing that he is most passionate about, comedy, are one and the same. And that's actually a pretty unique position to be in. A huge number of people have to, shock horror, work jobs they're not that interested in. Maybe they actively hate them, or maybe they think they're just kind of fine. But if anyone actually is using the specific phrase, hard work is toxic, then they're not suggesting that you should never commit yourself to trying hard at anything. What they're really saying is that maybe you shouldn't pour your heart and soul into a job which doesn't return that dedication in decent pay, personal fulfillment, or ideally both. In fact, what they're suggesting is that that hard work and dedication could be redirected into the things that one actually is passionate about, and in which, whether one earns money from it or not, that hard work does get rewarded.
This video reached international borders because there's so many people commenting being like, eating in your car during your lunch break is such an American thing. And people are like, yeah, like Americans do everything in their cars. And it's really interesting because one, I think it's the way our infrastructure and transportation system is worked out. We're forced to take car into a lot of places. And also eating our lunch in our cars during lunchtime, during the workday, could be an American thing because capitalism in our country is so rampant and hustle and bustle, especially compared to places like Europe and everything. People so desperately want a break, and even just socializing has become too much because either we have too short of a lunch break and we need to decompress, or even if we have an hour lunch break, the rest of the day is so chaotic and you're worked so hard or you have such long hours that you need that whole hour to decompress by yourself, and even socializing, which can be beneficial for you, becomes too much. because of our culture. It's really cool that I'm seeing a bunch of people not in America commenting and being like, this sounds very American. Because I think it can be. It might be. It is.
This is the worst.
Judging from the responses of the video I posted earlier today about being completely unmotivated and just burnt out on everything, I'm not the only one. Although some people took it as if I'm just burnt out at work, it's everything. I have zero motivation to do mostly anything at all. I just feel like I'm in a constant state of being emotionally, physically, and mentally drained and exhausted from prolonged stress from these past few years, and it just continues to keep going. It's overall just complete burnout. I am tired of continuing to hear that we're living through unprecedented times or once-in-a-lifetime events, and they just keep happening, one after another. I am tired of seeing how people and companies have acted over these past few years and continue to act and show their true colors. Honestly, I don't really have much of a desire or willingness to do much of anything at all, and the only thing that makes me happy, content, and brings me any peace is when I'm at home with my wife.
You know, I'm about to say it, fucking capitalism and hustle culture
Yes.
always makes it seem like there has to be a sense of urgency. And if you don't get somewhere by a certain age, by a certain time, then you have basically failed. Why is success only based upon something surviving for a really long time? Versus just when it closes, it's not that you quit, it's not that you lost, it's not that you failed. It's just that it's closing its time that it's meant to live. Like, why is that considered quitting versus that journey being complete? Why are we so stuck on this like winning mentality and what that winning mentality looks like in a certain way? Why can't us taking care of our health also be winning? Why can't we us taking our time and being gentle with ourselves also be winning? That we're able to achieve something and while all the while still being able to sustain our relationships and our health be winning.
I have finally come to realize that North America is a bullshit place to be. Honestly, straight up. Our parents came here in survival mode. Like, we came from Pakistan when we came on refugee status, not even immigrant status, because the place that we were at was not a safe place to be. So I understand my parents' struggle, and I understand every immigrant's struggle that have come here to provide a better life for our children. Now that these children, including AKA you and me, are here and we have careers and we have jobs and we have our own families with our own kids to raise, have you ever wondered what you are providing back to your families and to your children? The fact that parents have zero time to not only spend with our kids, but to gather around a meal at the dinner table. Like, I remember growing up when we came here, we used to have dinner every single night. It was just normal to sit down where everyone got together and we had dinner around the table. The other day I sat down with my kids at the dinner table after probably 3 weeks. And with whatever was going on with Palestine, it made me question what economy, what government, what country I support. And the North American culture, the fact that entertainment, Western media, pushes us to get further and further away from our faith, from our religion, from our values and morals, is something that I'm actively taking a role in supporting. And I've decided no more. I will not, no longer. I'm 38, I still have 10, 15, inshallah, more years to go of my life. And I would rather be in a place where I can come home to cook a meal and sit down with my family and eat. I can get on my prayer mat and make dua and have time to pray, have time to sit and think, maybe. This culture promotes nothing but hustle, and I am part of the hustle. I am part of the problem. I'm in a career in real estate where if I don't work, no one pays me, and I get all of that. But till we decide to change our life, nothing changes. And I will not stay here for the next 10, 15 years. I would rather go to a country where I have time to take a walk and see the water and look up at the sun and feel the warmth on my face, rather than coming home, feeling exhausted, feeling tired, not having time to catch up with my kids. And not only that, what does suffer. Our relationships, look at how many marriages fall apart because the couples don't have time for each other. We're distracted constantly by our phones and social media. Our kids are so heavily impacted by the North American culture, the music that they listen to, the celebrities that they follow. Have you ever looked at what they promote and what they're absorbing? I mean, as adults, if I have a hard time and have to make a conscious effort from stepping away from that, you can only imagine the impact it creates in our children's life. And now my kids are older, they're teenagers, and they're gonna go on to have their own lives. The best thing that I can do is set an example that this North American culture that pushes climbing the corporate ladder, making a shit ton of money, getting bigger houses while people can't afford it, spending more than we have, and not taking the time to prioritize our faith and our families, the two most important things that determine the level of your happiness. I do not want to be here.